He saw her standing there, trembling, holding a crumpled dollar in her hand. Her eyes were tired, yet hopeful, staring at the coffee menu she couldn't afford. Without thinking, he stepped forward and paid for her drink. What she whispered next left him frozen, tears blurring his vision. This simple act of kindness turned into a moment he would never forget. It was a grey Tuesday morning, the kind that presses on your chest like the weight of the world. Jake walked into the small downtown coffee shop, the familiar scent of roasted beans welcoming him like an old friend. His day had started early, with a long commute and a pile of emails that seemed to multiply on their own. But he always made time for this, his brief ritual of quiet before the chaos. As he waited in line, he noticed her. She was standing by the counter, a young woman, probably in her mid-20s. Her clothes were worn and a little too big, her shoes scuffed from long walks. She fumbled with a $1 bill, staring at the menu as if it contained some secret code she couldn't understand. There was something in her eyes, a vulnerability, a quiet desperation, that tugged at something deep inside him. Jake knew what it was like to feel invisible, to hope for a small comfort when life felt heavy. He watched her hesitate, shifting her weight from one foot to the other, clearly trying to make her dollar stretch further than it could. "Just a small coffee," she whispered, almost apologetically, as she placed her dollar on the counter. The barista gave her a polite smile, but it was a smile that didn't hide the judgment behind it. "I'm sorry, that won't cover it." Jake felt a lump form in his throat. He'd always believed in the ripple effect of small kindnesses, how a single moment could turn someone's entire day around. Without thinking twice, he stepped forward, placing his hand on the counter. "Don't worry about it. I'll cover your coffee," he said gently, forcing a smile even though his own heart was pounding. The woman's head snapped up, eyes wide with surprise, disbelief flickering across her face. For a moment, she didn't speak, just stared as if trying to process the fact that someone had noticed her, that someone had chosen to care. "Thank you," she finally whispered, her voice shaky. "Really, thank you." Jake nodded, stepping aside to let her order. As he watched her, something inside him softened. Life could be harsh, unfair, and relentless, but maybe, just maybe, little moments like this were proof that hope still existed. He picked up his own coffee, not knowing that this ordinary morning would become one of the most unforgettable moments of his life. The woman, her name was Lily, took her coffee and retreated to a small corner of the shop. Jake couldn't help but notice how carefully she sipped it, like it was the first warmth she'd felt in days. He tried to focus on his laptop, but his mind kept drifting to her, wondering what story lay behind those tired eyes. The truth hit him when he overheard her conversation with the barista. Lily was quietly explaining that she had been struggling to make ends meet ever since losing her job. Bills were piling up, her apartment rent was overdue, and every day felt like a fight just to survive. She spoke softly, as if embarrassed to share her burdens with anyone, her voice trembling with exhaustion. Around them, the world moved on without notice. People pushed past, glued to their phones, indifferent to the quiet struggle unfolding before them. A man muttered impatiently as she adjusted her change. A woman rolled her eyes when the line slowed. The weight of judgment, of society's indifference, pressed down on her. Jake's chest tightened. He thought of all the times he had felt invisible, dismissed, and overlooked. He realized that the world could be cruel in ways that went unnoticed, a relentless grind that wore down even the strongest spirits. And here was Lily, holding herself together with sheer willpower, yet barely clinging to hope. He wanted to do more, but he felt powerless. How could a single act, just paying for a coffee, make a dent in a life that had been so heavy with struggle? The thought gnawed at him. He wanted to speak, to offer some words of comfort, but the moment felt fragile, like a delicate glass that could shatter if touched too roughly. As he sipped his coffee, he watched her shoulder slump, her eyes distant. The world outside the cafe window looked the same, people laughing, walking with purpose, living without a care. But inside, in that quiet little corner, hope was fragile. The simple warmth of a coffee had illuminated the gap between survival and despair. Jake realized something profound. Sometimes, even the smallest gestures mattered more than he could ever imagine. He resolved, quietly, to find a way to show her that kindness could be more than a fleeting moment, that maybe, just maybe, someone cared. Jake left the cafe that morning with a lingering sense of unease, but also determination. He couldn't shake the image of Lily, her quiet struggle, and the faint glimmer of hope sparked by a cup of coffee. Something told him that kindness, even in its smallest form, had the power to change lives. The next day, he returned to the same cafe, hoping she would be there. As he walked in, he spotted her again, sitting alone, quietly sketching in a small notebook. He approached, a smile on his face. "Hey," he said gently. "Mind if I sit?" Lily looked up, surprised but welcoming. There was a hesitancy in her expression, a guardedness born from months of disappointment, yet something in her eyes told him she trusted him enough to allow this small interaction. They talked. Not just small talk, but real conversation. Jake learned about her dreams, how she had once hoped to become an artist, how life circumstances had pushed her into survival mode. And Lily learned that someone truly cared, someone who saw her as more than her struggles, more than her worn-out shoes or tired eyes. Then, she shared something that brought tears to Jake's eyes. She had been afraid to ask for help, ashamed of needing it, but that simple act of paying for her coffee had reminded her that kindness existed in the world, that there were still good people who noticed and cared. It really meant more than you'll ever know," she whispered, her voice breaking. Jake realized then that even the smallest gesture, a cup of coffee, a moment of attention, could ripple outwards, touching hearts and restoring hope. That single moment had reminded him that humanity wasn't lost, that even amidst struggle and pain, connection and kindness could shine through. From that day on, their friendship blossomed. They met often, sharing stories, laughter, and dreams. And every time Jake thought back to that first coffee, he understood the profound truth. Kindness doesn't need grandeur to be life-changing. Sometimes, all it takes is a small, human act to turn despair into hope. A single cup of coffee became more than a drink. It became a lifeline. Kindness, even in its smallest form, has the power to heal invisible wounds. Sometimes, noticing someone struggle is the first step to changing their world. Every act of compassion creates ripples that we may never fully see. Never underestimate the power of a simple, caring gesture. It can make someone cry tears of joy.